Okay, Oscar fans, when it comes to making your predictions, whose predictions should you steal? That's really the core question, isn't it? Well, I highly recommend either one of these guys. We have Peter Travers from Rolling Stone. We have Michael Musto from Out. And these guys both know the Oscars better than just about anybody on the planet. And we're going to start with Peter.
What a damning thing to say about us.
Well, I'm setting you up. I'm setting you up to knock you down here, okay? Because you've got Isabelle Huppert for lead actress. You've got to explain this to us.
Okay, I will explain it because there's a lot of things that are so predictable that you want in a major category to pick somebody that you think, really? Because in a major category, the Academy will always do that. And I've said to a lot of people, if they nominate her, if the actors actually say, I'm going to nominate her, then something happens. The actors kind of drop out. Everybody gets to vote, right? All 6,600 of them that are there. And they don't have to see Elle. They don't have to see anything. They just have to look at the ballot and say, isn't she supposed to be great? Isn't she really one of the great? And look how international and global we'll look if that happens. Now, I could be, as crazy as a bedbug about this, but I just like the idea that if there's a surprise, that this could possibly happen.
Well, it happened a few years ago with Marion Cotillard for La Vie en Rose, right, Michael? It was Julie Christie was considered to be ahead, and they went with the Frenchie. Do you think Peter's onto something here?
And who was another foreign Best Actress winner, Sophia Loren, for getting raped, and her daughter was raped in Two Women. Seriously, Tom, and no, why are you laughing about rape?
Well, okay, never mind. We'll skip over that.
But I actually did a little research, and it's 7 or 8 actresses whose characters got raped, from Jane Wyman to Charlize Theron, Brie Larson, I think, even in Room. And the difference with Isabelle Huppert is people want to see the suffering and the horror, and all they see with Isabelle Huppert, because she plays a steely woman, is the revenge scheme that she hatches. So I don't think it's an Oscar-type role.
Well, good. If you're proved wrong, we'll meet again here in this same place.
I think
$1.25.
Come on, Michael, the Oscars never go according to script. There's always this kind of Mark Rylance possibility hanging over the ceremony. If not Isabelle Huppert, what could be the shocker-oo?
It wouldn't be a shocker. Emma Stone, I think, is going all the way. Titanic, La La Land has 14 nominations. And I think Emma will be carried along by this sweep. She's the golden girl of Hollywood. I think Natalie Portman has lost momentum. Plus, people know that last time she won, and then somebody came forward and said, wait, I did all the dancing. So they feel that they were conned with that one. They don't want to rush to give Natalie another one. So I think it's Emma all the way. With Isabelle,
but let's stick with
Isabelle Huppert finally got a nomination. It's her recognition. The nomination, the award.
Well, I disagree. I agree with the Emma Stone thing, but here's my thought, Peter. Pick up on this. This race is specifically intriguing, I think, because Emma Stone has weaknesses as a contender, right? She doesn't give the transformative performance. She doesn't play a real-life character. She is up against three formidable competitors. So not just Isabelle Huppert, who is within striking distance. Meryl Streep, Hollywood's rallying around her as she takes on Trump-driven Washington. And we've got Natalie Portman, who is viable here. So I think you need fewer votes to win.
Well, I think that you probably do. And again, I'm saying this is the entire Academy that gets to vote on that category. A lot of people feel, even though I agree with Michael, the favorite here is definitely Emma Stone. There's got to be an actor that rides that La La Land wave, to all its wins and nominations. But I think part of them, they see Meryl Streep, and then they see Isabelle Huppert, the Meryl Streep of France, together. And they have all of these two divas of actresses. And they could just say, and I don't know why I'm accusing the Academy of anything, but in many cases, they don't see the movie. They just think somebody's either due or it's their time. If we actually did a poll and asked how many people actually saw Julianne Moore in Still Alice, I don't think they all did. I think they went.
No, they didn't. Many of them confessed to me that they didn't.
She deserves it. So it could happen because of that, I think.
But I wouldn't take Isabelle's golden. I wouldn't take Isabel's Golden Globe too seriously because the Golden Globe is the foreign press, and they're always going to favor foreign actresses.
But she's won so many awards, critics groups. It's just piled up with everybody saying that when they had the option of picking Emma Stone or Natalie Portman, they kind of didn't, you know? They all kept saying, this is Isabel's time. When I saw her on the New York Times Magazine cover also as a fashion icon, there's just something happening with her in the air. You know I'm out on a limb on this one.
Yeah, she's John Waters' favorite actress.
There you go. You always know that now.
But she goes to dark places with her work. She's very brave. But I think as far as she's going to go is replacing Natalie Portman as the first runner-up. Emma Stone.
Emma Stone is the ingenue. They like to crown a new rising star like Jennifer Lawrence is going to. Emma does fit that mold beautifully. And what Peter said,
let's not forget the ageism in this award system, especially with actress.
This is true.
They don't love to give an older woman. Yes, Meryl won, Helen Mirren won. Those are the rarities.
That's an interesting point. But to the point of that Peter mentioned a minute or two ago about how Best Picture usually takes an acting award, and it usually does. That wasn't true the last 2 years, of course, with Spotlight and with Birdman. They ended up not taking an acting award, so it isn't absolutely locked in stone. Emma Stone, in this case.
Well, for a movie to have 14 nominations and not take away any acting awards would be unusual. That's never happened. That's
a good point. All right, well, let's go to...
It did happen because Titanic didn't win any acting awards. I take it back.
Lord of the Rings didn't win any acting awards. There's another one, see? There goes your whole theory, Michael. It's
okay. Ignore everything I've said up to now. Not just today, but in the entire past.
Okay, now Isabelle Huppert, the favorite. Yes, this is it. We'll take
You were right, Peter.
Oscar voting hasn't started yet. Maybe we could influence the outcome here. Let's talk about what the real cliffhanger here, which is Best Actor, of course. We had Casey Affleck win everything all along the way, and then boom, all of a sudden, Denzel wins at SAG, and it made us all go, maybe so. Denzel's not nominated at BAFTA, either is Isabelle Huppert, so we're not going to learn a lot when that award show comes on us. But you're both sticking with Casey, aren't you? Who wants to explain first?
Well, first of all, the SAG Awards are nutty. They're the ones who nominated Emily Blunt for Girl on the Train. Okay?
Okay.
Secondly, the Oscars, as much as they're trying more than ever to prove they're not racist, they still are. And they're going to penalize Nate Parker, who got no nominations because he was charged with rape, even though he was cleared. But they're going to say it's okay for white man Casey Affleck, who had sexual harassment charges that were settled out of court, which he denies, threatened to countersue, never did. But that's going to be okay with the Academy. So is it hypocrisy? I don't know. You decide.
I think hypocrisy is built into the system. That's what they do. You know, Mel Gibson has been punished for what, 15 years? And now he's forgiven. Every year they forgive somebody else. That goes back to Ingrid Bergman winning her Oscar.
Yeah, and Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah. So they can't have Nate Parker forgiven too. This is the year where Mel Gibson gets forgiven.
Well, what about Casey Affleck? Why is he forgiven?
I don't think that it's clear in their minds just what Casey was supposed to have done. I think it's a little vague as to what this actually is. And there's that other thing about him actually giving the best performance by an actor. I don't mean to bring up subjects like that. Does somebody actually deserve to win? But I think he does. And what's going on between him and Denzel is that Casey's performance is so insular, so implosive, so subtle in that way. And Denzel is fireworks, you know, it's like, whoa, look at this. So they get to choose that way. But you're right. The whole Oscars So What controversy of last year is also in their heads. So that makes this a contest now. I'm sticking with Casey Affleck for the revolutionary reason of thinking that he gave the best performance by an actor. They like the biggest of everything at the Oscars.
They do like the most costumes, the loudest movies win the Sound Awards, of course. Casey's performance is subtle. I just switched to Denzel. I correctly predicted him at SAG. I was hedging my bets and keeping Casey for lead actor at the Oscars in my GoldDerby predictions. But here's why I think that the SAG thing is the tea leaf that we should follow, and that is, Denzel is campaigning actively. Casey is not, because he's dodging these press questions. He's trying to keep that issue out of the headlines. And I think that hurts. Just 2 years ago, Eddie Redmayne pulled ahead of Michael Keaton because he basically had the best ground game, I think. And Denzel's doing the Q&As. He's out there. He's really making it happen. And I think the message is being delivered to the Oscar voters that he could join that pantheon of 6 stars that have 3 or more. And if anybody belongs there, of course, Denzel does. And lastly, to the point of the most of something wins, Denzel's performance is the most. It is the biggest, the most bombastic performance of those.
It would also make 3 of the 4 acting winners African-American, which would be quite remarkable. I'm sure that's a first. Denzel suffers from the fact that it's an adapted play. He already gave this performance on Broadway, but of course so did Viola Davis, and we know that she's going to win supporting. He does benefit from the fact that it's a showy performance by somebody who likes to talk. Casey Affleck's character is inarticulate, and it is actually harder to portray that as an actor, somebody who's grappling with his feelings and doesn't know how to say what he's feeling. But the Academy doesn't recognize, gradations of challenges.
Do you think it helps Denzel that he is directing himself on screen? Yeah. Roberto Benigni did that.
They didn't reward him for that. They said there's a little less love. When the SAG people, I know, I agree with Michael that they're nuts, but when they gave Hidden Figures their ensemble acting award instead of Fences, there's something about him being denied that directing nomination. There's a little less love for Fences going on, which I think Viola Davis is going to represent that movie through and through.
Well, I think it's because it's an adapted play. They already did it on Broadway, and basically he just put a camera in the backyard. August Wilson wrote the screenplay before he died, and it's not the most prosaic screenplay. It's not the most cinematic. It's barely opened up. There are long scenes in the backyard where they're just talking. So you can't consider it a tremendous directing job. But people do factor in the fact that he's not only directed this, but he wants to produce all of August Wilson's work. And this is the year of Oscars so mixed, so...
No, it could easily
there's a lot in his favor.
Interesting.
I'm sorry?
I'm still sticking with Casey.
Me too.
Well, the problem with Denzel is he's won nothing. And he's not even nominated at BAFTA, as they say. So it's kind of hard to say that in the case of Eddie Redmayne versus Michael Keaton, at least they both won Globes. Then Eddie may have pulled out in front of SAG, and that was a tip-off to us. It's a little hard to justify a Denzel prediction on that other grounds. But on the other hand, if you think about the Viola thing, Michael was there too, backstage at the Tony Awards when they won. I was there, and when you see Viola and Denzel side by side, it's kind of hard to separate them. How do you give an Oscar to one and not the other? Certainly, the Tony voters thought you can't separate them, and I just think there's something magisterial about that play is epic. In terms of American literature, and it's the Pulitzer Prize and all those things. I think there's just something, and even if they don't watch it, and I think this might be a case of Still Alice, Peter, like you're saying, I'm not even sure they're going to watch it. I remember so many Oscar voters didn't watch 12 Years a Slave. I remember Peggy Siegel saying to me all the time, "All these Oscar voters, I'm having to buy lunches, and they're admitting they're not watching 12 Years a Slave." And she said, "I don't know. I think it might not win because of that." And you thought it has nothing to do with that. It's
if you put Denzel Washington in supporting, he would definitely win, like they did with Viola. Why don't they just say he's supporting?
That would make such sense, wouldn't it? Since he's never off screen. Yeah, that would be great.
But yeah, Lawrence was supporting for Hamlet. But Tom, I don't think sometimes we get a little too excited by a new development, like Denzel won the SAG Award. Last year, Sly Stallone won supporting actor at the Golden Globes. So we all jumped on the Stallone's going to win the Oscar bandwagon. We were wrong. Let's not let this little glitch in the awards history change our predictions. Different things happen at other award shows. That doesn't mean it's happening at the Oscars.
Well, I don't think it's in a way changing our opinions. What's happened is it's a television show. I don't know how many people watched the SAG Awards, but yet the media played it up very big that he had won. So suddenly it's just in their consciousness again. So they're saying, what should I actually do here? But Denzel has 2 Oscars. No, Casey has.
And then when are the Oscar votes due? When are the Oscar
I
votes due?
think it's the middle of February, something like the 18th.
No, the voting doesn't start till late, like another week and a half.
So the Globes and the SAGs actually can have an impact on the votes. For the Oscars.
This time the voting is very late, so I think it could have an impact in that case.
Yeah. They're just seeing pictures of him and saying, "I love him. He's a great guy. Let's do something for Denzel."
But to your point, though, Peter, about they just gave he's already got 2. Look. In the immortal words of Sally Field, when they like you, they really, really like you. And he's just one of those exceptions. It's like when Meryl Streep won the 3rd a few years ago. It was an upset. Viola Davis was expected to win that year, according to the GoldDerby experts and most pundits out there. Sometimes they will go back to the veterans and they will give them that hug if there's something special about it. And I think in this case with Denzel and this role and all of this, the politics, the Oscar so white thing, everything else, and the fact that he's just Denzel Washington. My God, he's in the pantheon. Give him that number 3.
And it makes it exciting. I mean, it looked like Casey was just a lock for so long there, So now we have something happening. There's a little something more in the mix, which makes it more fun to watch.
The people who have won 3 or more acting Oscars are Katharine Hepburn, Meryl Streep, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Walter Brennan.
Ingrid Bergman.
But Katharine Hepburn has 4 Oscars. She's
right. I said 3 or more. That's why I said 3 or more.
Yeah, which is the big one.
And they were all for lead.
That's right. None of those supporting.
Daniel Day-Lewis has 3 for lead.
Yeah.
Well, Meryl Streep's had 1 supporting for Kramer versus Kramer,
right?
Right. Okay. Well, what are overlooking all of your predictions, Michael? In your case, are you going out on any long shots here? At all across the board?
For foreign film, I just think a lot of people find Tony Erdmann very challenging to watch. I thought it was too long.
Yes. Yeah.
The Iranian film certainly could, The Salesman could sneak in there because of the controversy where the director said he's not going to come in protest of Trump's immigration policies. But I'm voting for A Man Called Ove, which I hear is a very feel-good film. So I think there'll be an upset in that category. Everybody's expecting Tony Erdmann, but it won't be. I think Salesman is going to divide people, and Man Called Ove is going to win. And nobody gives a shit anyway.
So, Peter, could we
I think the operative phrase there was, I think, A Man Called Ove. I'm hearing that it's a feel-good film.
Well, I'm like the voters. I didn't watch everything. I'm just like the voters. I don't watch everything. No, I'm getting a disc on that. I'm actually going to watch it.
No,
Peter, where do you come down on foreign film? Yeah, foreign language film is the one place where we could see the intrusion of politics in the Oscars. We have seen at the Golden Globes Meryl Streep's magnificent performance on stage, and we saw at the SAG Awards all night long. We saw political speeches made. We know that we're going to see a lot of that at the podium on Oscar night. But the one place where we could see it on the awards front, I think, is in foreign film, as Michael's saying. And I think that this Tony Erdmann thing, the vast majority of the experts at GoldDerby predict it's going to win. I agree with you. It's not resonating with the Oscar voters. It's too long. It's supposed to be a comedy. I don't personally think it's that funny. But yet it is it is the one with the biggest name recognition. It began with the most buzz early on, which, by the way, helped a separation a few years ago when the same Iranian director won. I think it was a case of it was just this, it was assumed it was going to win all the way. And now we have a potential for the Iranian winning and suddenly the intrusion of politics on the Oscar outcome. Peter, do you agree with that?
I totally think this is a political year in more ways than Trump. I think that everybody's aware, and SAG helped that along. I mean, that was a show where everybody but Denzel made a political statement. And the fact that the director of The Salesman isn't coming here, and the sense of immigration that's there, that's enough to make them say, I'm going to vote for that, I don't really care that much about each individual one. So now I'm going to say, this is wrong. So let's, kick the Academy a little bit in the teeth so that we can also say to Trump, we're not on your side. I mean, who was in that room that was pro-Trump at the SAG? Right. Nobody there. So I think, yes, that could be a factor.
It's interesting how the Oscar so white theme has been kind of overcome by this new immigration thing, but they're both about the same thing, diversity. So they're kind of going hand in hand, and that's going to be the running theme of the evening, obviously. It's sort of like...
Look at it. You know, La La Land is not nominated for SAG because it's just 2 people. But La La Land is the whitest movie made in 2016.
Even though, I agree with that. Even though John Legend is in there.
There's nothing about diversity in it, you know. So I think
John Legend has a supporting role, but I agree that
No, I think they see that and their sympathies are with that. And yet they're going to make up for that in as many other categories as they can. And that's where I think Tom might be onto something with Denzel. Otherwise, we have Mahershala Ali and Viola Davis, and again, winning supporting awards, which historically they like to give. To be in the major category and win doesn't happen really for a woman. That was it.
Well, it's a record 6 acting nominations for African Americans, and
7. They're counting it 7 now because Dev Patel is a person of color.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. He's a person of color. Yay!
Yay!
I'm such a knee-jerk liberal.
So how is Jimmy Kimmel going to do as host, you guys?
I talked to an Oscar voter who is very upset and thinks he will take the low road and just do a lot of dumb schmucky shtick. I hope not. I hope the prompter works. I wasn't enamored with Chris Rock last year. I thought he didn't take a strong point of view. He kind of wasn't attacking the Academy for not being inclusive, but then he was also attacking those who criticize the Academy. I thought he should have chose one or the other, decided which way to go. Agreed on that?
I think he's going to do I was talking to Neil Patrick Harris recently, and I was just asking because he's hosted everything, you know, including everybody's uncle's cousin's bar mitzvah. He's done every kind of hosting job, and he said the toughest one is the Oscars because they're so controlling. They don't want any surprises from their host. They like to say to somebody, "Come out there, do your monologue," which basically gets, in Trump's words, extreme vetting. You know, they look at it and they would be really, really happy if they didn't do anything the rest of the show. The best hosts of that show always sneak back in. They hear what somebody said, they reply to it, they come out and make a comment. And Jimmy Kimmel is capable of doing that, but maybe they don't want him to do it. I'm eager to watch what he does, to see how much of himself he gets in there.
Well, they really set up poor Neil Patrick, who's normally charming, 2 years ago when he hosted the Oscars. They gave terrible material to work with, as you'll recall.
Well, I heard something very different.
Suddenly he's Lemon Snickets. He's not hosting anymore.
Yeah, but I heard something very different from some very, very, very good inside sources that I had on that. They said the problem was Neil Patrick Harris, that he was not, when they told him that whole suitcase thing at the end was not working to get it out, he just was intransigent. He refused to budge, and that time and again the producers had to make a decision of where, when they had a major disagreement, can they let the star be disgruntled or mad, or just let it. The near the end, as I understand it, the producers have not asked Neil this, but because it's such an embarrassing question to ask. But what I had heard was that the tensions between the two, with Craig and Neil and the other Neil, were so fierce that they only had their representatives talking to each other by Oscar night.
That's so Hollywood.
It is. That's true. That's true. I don't know if that's true, but the source I have is pretty damn good. But these Oscar hosts, of course, it can really hurt. Like, I thought Seth MacFarlane, the year he did, I thought he did a great job, and then all of a sudden he was being trashed the next morning. So,
speaking of Dev Patel, I have a little item, which is I hear that Dev feels he did even better work in that movie with Jeremy Irons about Infinity.
Oh, right. Man,
and he wished he had been given a bigger push for that, though I'm sure he's thrilled with the push for Lion. So
it's Harvey's big push, right?
These are problems that I would not lose sleep over. I wish they pushed me for another movie.
But are we saying basically that La La Land, with 14 nominations, only 2 others getting that, is definitely a lock, that nothing could happen to dislodge it from that spot that it's in? Nothing could happen.
Unless the white liberal guilt takes over so big that they decide it's going to be Hidden Figures or something, which is it's only got 3 nominations, I believe.
But I wonder where it would go then, because you would think if it would go to Moonlight, but Moonlight seems to be, I keep quoting Trump, but he's forgotten man. It's the forgotten movie. It seems to be that everybody was loving it. It's gotten, what is it, 8 nominations? And except for Mahershala Ali, what is it going to win?
I can't picture La La Land losing. Then again, I still think Hillary Clinton won. So I'm the wrong
Moonlight's favorite to win screenplay, and it is like in second place on most lists to win. But Hidden Figures was an eye opener at SAG, of course, that made you think, could that really rally? And
Hidden Figures is successful at the box office.
Yes,
so is La La Land. So is La La Land. It's a big,
great but fight. Not Moonlight. Not Moonlight.
Do either of you guys have an actual numerical prediction of how many La La will win?
Well, I would say definitely picture, director, actress. Obviously, song, score.
Cinematography?
Editing, cinematography, costumes. What am I leaving out?
I don't know. So you're saying only Ryan Gosling?
Editing, sound editing, or film editing and sound editing.
It could get one of the 2 sound awards, yeah.
Like Peter has in his predictions, La La winning both the current predictions. I don't know if you'll be making changes, but La La winning sound editing and mixing, and Michael has Hacksaw winning sound editing and La La winning sound mixing.
Is there
so I think at least 10 awards?
Yeah. Do you have a number, Peter, for La La that you predict?
That's right. It's going to be in a double digit. Let me say that it'll be in that. But it seems to be sad for Ryan Gosling because he'll be the forgotten man in terms of a win for that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Why is that?
He doesn't have the last song. He doesn't have the number like Emma has with the audition, where she gets to sing a song live and break your heart with it. It's like a real moment. Everybody's got their Oscar moment. Denzel Washington has nothing but Oscar moments. Fences is every scene you pull from that you could use for him. But what Ryan Gosling's doing is more subtle. And if they're going with subtle this year, that's Casey Affleck's.
And Emma Stone's character does a 1-person show that's so rotten, only 5 people show up, but one of them's a big casting director. I didn't love La La Land.
The greatest Hollywood story ever. Yes. That 1 person showed up.
Well, now we know why the Hollywood community loves it. It's everybody's fantasy.
But that's something we didn't bring up. Yes. When people talk about the 14 nominations and they say, well, Titanic, they forget All About Eve. And what is All About Eve about? Actors.
That's a nightmare, though. That's like somebody's behind your back trying to take over your life and career.
Fine, it's still you acting, and Bette Davis.
Well, everyone identified with Eve, the backstabber.
That's a whole other show.
Unfortunately, I'm a Margot.
Tom,
are you there, Tom?
Yes. I'm just watching this. You guys are on fire. It's great to see.
I just love George Sanders. I really identify with him.
Well, the killer is obviously Singing in the Rain is probably the greatest musical ever about show business and about the movies. It only got 2 nominations.
Yeah, they didn't figure out that was good till much later. Same with Vertigo, which is now all the critics' choice for the greatest movie ever made.
And some people also say the year earlier, American in Paris, some people feel was over awarded with Best Picture, so they wanted to scale back on giving musicals award the next year.
But La La Land has it's in that unique position of being a very young movie about a very retro subject. And I think it pleases people on both sides of that. And while I make a joke about it being the whitest movie, I guess you could say Manchester by the Sea is runner-up for whitest nominee. Both of those movies have ingenuity in them and real talent behind putting them together and putting them out there. It's just we are in this year where the Academy isn't picking their favorites. They're saying we need to make a statement as well. That's why I think Tom is onto something with 3 of the acting winners being Black. I think that can actually make history, and they would like that to happen. But I'm sticking with what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, Michael, it was just a couple of years ago, so we know that Russell Crowe and Sissy Spacek were way out front until the media just made this big hubbub about Oscars so white in effect, and then all of a sudden, Denzel and Halle Berry pulled ahead at SAG, or she did at SAG, and he did as well, and then they won. So the pressure from the outside did actually have an impact. And
Julia Roberts had a big campaign to vote for Denzel, remember? And you always do what Julia says. I always do.
Well, what's she saying? You didn't tell us what her.
Casey Affleck, she's saying.
It's just Denzel.
She's over Denzel.
Okay, you guys.
At least we have a horse race, Tom. At least we have. Everything was so damn predictable about 2 weeks ago, and at least we finally have a little bit of a horse race going on here.
Yeah, and all these other factors. I mean, Michael, I read that you made a point about supporting performances that don't really belong there, because if Viola Davis is supporting in Fences, what? I mean, where does that come from? But is that,
who is she what other female star is she supporting?
And of course, she won the Tony Award for Best Actress in the same exact
so it's
role.
nuts. But Alicia Vikander won last year for a non-supporting performance too. So the Academy members or voters don't seem to mind that people are in that wrong category.
Well, the Academy does whatever the studios tell them. It's the Tony Awards are different. Nowadays, the Tony Awards decide. The committee says these people are supporting, these people are lead. Nathan Lane was just deemed to be supporting for the front page on Broadway by the Tony Committee. So normally the producers might have pushed him for lead, but the Tony Committee is saying, no, that's not happening. The Oscars are different. If the studio pushes Viola Davis for supporting, and Viola is telling people that it was her decision, actually. I don't know if that's true, but that's what she's saying. Then the Oscars just say, okay, you're supporting. And this happened from Tatum O'Neal on down.
Yeah, Tatum.
Unless you're Kate
really
Winslet.
in that movie.
Jessica Lange. Remember the year Jessica Lange was up for lead for Frances and she won supporting for Tootsie? She wasn't supporting in Tootsie, but they wanted to give her the 2 nominations and they knew she would win supporting for Tootsie.
Are you saying that the Academy's corrupt?
Yes. It's called
just crazy.
Fraud. It's called category fraud.
I see.
They have alternative nominees, let's say.
What does Julia Roberts say? I wonder who she picked. I just think that Michelle Williams in Manchester is truly giving a supporting performance. That's what that is. She's a star, but in that movie, that's what she's doing. She's supporting.
And it's not fair for her to have to compete with Viola Davis. It's just ridiculous.
So we've established the Academy is corrupt and unfair. What else do you want?
Do we as a final thought, do we think, either one of you, that they're actually picking the best? Or are they basically saying, it's the Julianne Moore example you brought up earlier, Peter, that is, oh, it's her turn, we love her, or it's Jennifer Lawrence, she's the new ingenue queen of Hollywood, we have to crown her. Is that what this is all about? We have to forgive Roman Polanski so he wins director. Is that what's going on, or do you really think that they're, in their minds, picking the best?
I think that what people used to call popularity, which we can now extend to everything you just said, all factors in with them. I think, and it factors in with all of us. I don't want to just say they're the ones who are influenced by all of these things. We all are. We look at this and say, look what Denzel did. This was something more than his performance. There's something more behind what this is. And to anoint somebody. Emma Stone could have been anointed before for Birdman, but wasn't. She didn't win that supporting award that year to do it. This may be just the time because she is riding in on their winning the horse. This is La La Land. They've shown the Sally Field love for. But yes, all of these are factoring in. And I think this year more than ever, not only the political world that we're in and Trump's feeling about immigration, we talked about the foreign language film, but also about the whole notion of Oscars so white. They don't want that anymore. And they've proved themselves with 7 out of 20 being nominated who are people of color. Well, great. That's a factor. I think that nudges them. People wondered, well, why didn't Annette Bening get nominated this year? why didn't somebody else get in there? And Ruth Negga did get in. I think Ruth got in as Best Actress nominee because that was in their minds. Not saying anything against her performance, which is great, but something more is happening in there. There's a vibe out there.
Michael, I'll give you the final word. What do you say?
I have talked to Oscar voters, and in their mind, they are voting for honestly what they think is the best, but it's not really what's happening psychologically. You know, choosing the best is one of the factors. It's maybe the fifth factor after popularity.
That's brilliant. I love that. You're right.
Popularity. Is their role showy? Did their movie make money? Are they owed something? Were they screwed over? Or maybe they're overpraised and we need to now not praise them. And then also, oh, were they any good? That's an afterthought.
All right, well, I think we give the final word to Katharine Hepburn as Oscar's biggest winner with 4 awards, once famously told that other Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, "Don't worry, dear, you always win for the wrong role." Or as she said, you'll win someday for something, for a role that doesn't rate it. Now, if Kate doesn't know, nobody knows, okay? On that note, thank you guys for joining us. And good luck with your prediction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.